You ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna count you in.
Okay.
You gotta be ready. You gotta be ready to go.
I am.
Here we go.
Do I sound good?
You sound so good.
Thank you.
Here we go. You ready? You ready? You ready? Get ready.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mental sync. Let's go.
I'm overstimulated. Expect the long-awaited abolition of my brain.
But if mentally we synchronize, despite what we despise, there's a chance that maybe I won't go insane.
Hi, friends.
Hi, everybody. Ow.
Welcome to Mental Sync.
Welcome to Mental Sync. It's the only show where I never let Emily relax, and I will throw a million things at her all at once for
These are
sake of
facts.
chaos.
It's
Gotta keep it
That's why
interesting.
we like. This is also the show where I make cups on demand.
Emily made that cup. Look at that. We were going to sit down to record, and I was like, hey, let's try. I got stuff going on. I got to pack because I'm going on a trip, and I got people that are going to come say goodbye, and I got to see them for like 2 to 3 p.m., so we got to make sure that we're logged on and recording for like 1, and we were both like, yeah, absolutely. And then I hit 1, and Emily's like, wait, I had a project idea. And put together that cup in like 5 minutes, and it was incredible and absolutely worth it. Look at that shit. Look at that.
And
Mental
you
sync.
can't tell on camera, but again, it is sparkly.
It is sparkly. I also can't tell, and I'm taking Emily's word for it, but I've learned to trust her. I think we can just believe her that it is.
And I've also learned
Emily doesn't
that...
joke about sparkles.
No, never.
No.
Never.
Never.
Would never do that. So serious. But what are we going to talk about today?
I don't know.
Cool. Let's find out.
Yeah, so we've got the little wheel here. Oh, I gotta make it so that I'm recording the wheel. What's the Command Shift 5?
Do you have a note up there?
No. I remember. Command Shift 5 to start recording.
So funny. Anyway.
I can't remember everything. I have a big brain, but it's like only so big for so much information.
That's
I gotta
one of the
put
things
sticky notes around.
that one
with
just
notes.
doesn't fit in there.
That one doesn't fit in there. No,
That's okay.
I'm working on it.
All right, John.
I'm recording. We've got this little wheel. Look at our wheel. It turns out we can change the colors so they're not fucking gross looking.
I love them.
You know what we should do?
Spin that wheel.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Spin that wheel. We're going to see what Emily and John are going to talk about today once we spin the wheel. So here we go. Yeah. And
I'm excited.
dominating conversation.
yeah.
This is the one
We were
that we
just
were
talking about this.
that we were talking about potentially doing. Emily, why don't you start us off with a little story?
Okay. So, sometimes I dominate all the conversations.
I really can relate to that. I dominate conversations pretty much all the time.
Me too. Like
I don't really mean
sometimes
to dominate conversations.
No, we both are really good
It can
at
be kind of
like,
tough because sometimes people think that I'm just like not listening, and that's not
right,
the
right.
reality.
But like what they really don't understand is that we have like so many thoughts.
it can
like,
be
this
really
way,
difficult
and then
to communicate.
if you listen to any of our episodes, you know that that's exactly what they sound like.
That's super. Yeah, that's not an exaggeration. In the slightest, I should talk into the microphone probably, but I gotta plug back
Maybe.
in. I got a little battery that I'm charging for my heated jacket because I work outside.
Wait, does that increase your risk of being like lit on fire?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, well, that depends on the question. If you're asking me, is it likely that I will catch on fire? Probably not. Does it increase the risk from wearing a jacket that does not have an electric battery inside it in the rain? Yeah. It's
Cool.
definitely a higher risk. But I'm sure it's only like
I'm sure it's fine.
12%.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just dominate the conversation right now.
Dominate it.
And so John, you want to hear my experience about dominating the conversation, or do you want to take over and talk about how you dominate conversations too? Which one would we like?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, so I have a very hard time being quiet when other people are talking. Because
Oh my God, same. First of all, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. You got. This is going to be the whole episode, I swear.
I know.
Because I tend to have 7,000 thoughts at once. And so if you're telling me something that I'm like actively engaging in, I'm thinking about all these responses and all these ideas and all these other things all at once, everything everywhere all at once. And then I just can't help but hold it in because I don't want to forget about it because my ADHD doesn't allow me to remember what I was thinking about 10 minutes later. So I have to sometimes, I'm like, wait, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm having this thought and I need to tell you about it because I'll forget about it.
It's so time sensitive and I won't like, so that's, so it's very much an ADHD thing, as we both know. But I think it's so interesting how it definitely comes from like, it's time sensitive in the sense where I'm going to forget about this. And also I'm not able to stop thinking about it until I get the thought out. So I'm not going to be a good listener.
Literally, I can't.
And that's not an excuse because it's still like rude. It's still, you know, but it's something that I think you and I have both very much had to work on. But the good thing is because you and I both have this, you and I definitely both have this problem. I don't think it's ever affected our personal relationship because we will both just jump from tangent to tangent as we now
literally
have
just happened.
hours and hours of video evidence of happening.
Yes.
But yeah, it's definitely when you're friends with people that aren't the same way, it's something that you have to be very conscious of because it can be super rude. I feel very bad about it, and it's something that I've tried, and I know you have tried to like just work very hard on because we just got a lot of fucking shit going on up in here. It's a lot
and that's what I try to explain because like Victor gets frustrated with me because I'll like interrupt him mid thought. And he'll always then get kind of like discouraged because he's like trying to finish something he's excited about. And I'm always like, I'm really not trying to be like this. I just can't help it because I want to talk about this with you. And I can't help but like think about these things. And I've had to explain to him like early on in our relationship again that and still he understands, but I think it's still frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating for anyone.
Yeah, well, that's people understand. But yeah, no, it's continue.
But so the other day, actually, he was telling me something and I was like, oh, do you remember? Because it was about his car. And I was then thinking about how my car needs new tires because they're basically bald and it's winter in Boston. And, I literally get in my car and I start singing the Dumb Ways to Die theme song as I'm like driving. I'm like, dumb ways to die. So like driving down the road. But so he was telling me something about his car, and he was like, oh, and they fixed this and did blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my God, wait, I need new tires too. How are we going to make the money so I can get new tires? And he was like, I was just in the middle of telling you something. And I was like, and again, it's not like you. It's not that I'm not interested in what you're saying. It's that there's 7,000 thoughts happening all at once. And
I'm so interested in what you're saying that it sparks new ideas because I get excited.
And then the other thing is sometimes what happens to me is I'm 10 steps ahead of the conversation that's happening. So, like, I figured where you're going with it because I'm also still trying to think, like, I don't know how to explain that. It sounds rude, but it's not like...
I know what you mean. Well, and because it's not that it's not rude. It can be rude in the sense where, like, you gotta let people finish their thoughts and let them get it out, and that we've both, I think, learned that and really have tried to work on and are, I think, both much better than we used to be.
Yeah. But I would even say professionally, I'm very good at just being quiet. Like I've been able to, like,
professionally, sure.
Yeah, like I've been in an environment where I've had to like really, but I have to talk myself through it. Like I have to be, all right, you can't say anything right now. Like you can't.
But
and
medication helps when you're more relaxed and with your friends that it's like, it's my way of, like, it's not that it's not rude, but it comes from a place of being engaged. It comes from a place of, like, I'm engaged in this conversation and I want to actively participate in this conversation. And there is an extent that I think we try to work on of, like, because sitting back and saying nothing, I also think is rude. I think I definitely feel that way where, like, someone is not into the conversation because they're not putting anything into it.
Right.
And they're just, because when someone's just sitting and letting me talk, it's very polite. And I think that's great. But I'm also like, okay, I don't think they're really into this conversation because they're just kind of like, okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. There's nothing. It's very sweet and nice, but that makes me feel boring.
So what you're saying is that you want people who are going to come in and be like, yeah, John, but did you know that this too? Like, did you?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I do want people to listen to me. I just want, I don't know. It's such a weird balance because I also feel like it's rude when people do that to me. But it depends. It just depends on so much. Not like, okay, I think rude is the wrong word because I think rude suggests like intentionality of like not caring or being absent-minded or whatever. But
It's
it can be, it's frustrating and it can be hurtful from both ends.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a difference between like interrupting with different thoughts and changing the topic and jumping away versus like building on the same conversation. And that's not to say that what we're doing, I don't know, God. I'm not trying to defend the behavior, but it's something just to talk through.
Well, yeah. Well, even like for my example with Victor's car the other day, right? He's telling me about what they did to his brakes, and in my mind, when I say that I'm 10 steps ahead of the conversation, I already know that he's going to tell me that they fixed his brakes and like all is good type of a thing, right? I'm going to be like, so I've already figured that, which is why in the middle of him finishing his story, I'm like, okay, cool. So I also need to get my tires done too. Do you think we can like make a plan to do whatever? And it's never to be like, oh, I don't care about the rest of your story. It's more so because like, yeah, that's good. I'm glad. I'm excited about this. And I also, don't forget, we have to do this too. It's never intentionally me being like, okay, I know what you're going to say, so I'm just going to like cut you off.
You
it's
have,
never like,
you have the information in your head and you have received it, but you're also forgetting that it hasn't technically been delivered yet.
Yes. Literally.
I'm very bad at that too.
Me
where
too. So bad.
I tend something, because it's interesting because some people like this and some people don't, but I tend to finish thoughts and conversations with, or like when people are looking for the word, it's something that I'm proud of, that I feel like I'm good at, but I like to suggest the word I think they're looking for. And some people like Keith, from what I mean, yes, I know this because he would tell me if he didn't, but he likes that. He likes that he'll be like, oh, it's like, and I'll be like, this word, and he'll be like, yes, thank you. And a lot of the time I feel like people appreciate that because it feels like you're contributing to their conversation, allowing them to talk. But there's the other side of it, which is when I am incorrect, when I guess wrong, and I'm like trying, I'll be like, oh, do you mean this? Oh, do you mean this? People will be like, well, I'm gonna tell you.
Right.
So just hang on for a second. It's like, okay, yeah. So it really does depend on if you actually are on the same page or not. Whoops.
Right.
Because I think there's an extent where it's like, oh, you're being super clear with your communication, and I know exactly what you're trying to say, and we're on the same page. And that makes people feel good, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But when you're not on the same page, I think is when it's like you're just dominating and interrupting me.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to balance it, but I've noticed that with a lot of my friends that I've known for a long time, I've been aware of it for a long time, like even way before I like knew it was an ADHD thing. Like I've always been aware that I've done that because I've had people who've told me like, okay, can you just let me finish for a second? And then I'd be like, why do I always do this? Right? Like you're just, why do I keep doing this?
What the fuck is wrong with me?
I know, why can't I just like sit here and like just listen? Like it's just so hard. But I've had people like tell me that, and so I became aware of it a long time ago. But I think what changed in my relationships now is I've preemptively told people, hey, I have this problem. It's nothing towards you, or it's not that I'm not interested in what you're saying, but I definitely struggle to like allow you to finish what you're saying because I'm already thinking about 7,000 other things that I think you'll be interested because I'm excited about the conversation that we're having. And a lot of my friends, I feel blessed because they completely understand that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's helped too, is like definitely finding people who at least can be like understanding really of what you're kind of going through. But I do have to say too, when I'm on when I'm on Adderall, not now.
Not right now.
Not right now.
Yeah. I'm also downing my second cup of coffee, and so I'm not
I'm
too focused either.
I'm over here with 2 drinks. Can we just talk about how this one's called Focus?
Bullshit.
Somewhere on here it's called focused. I can't find it. It says it, I promise.
No, I believe you. I just mean bullshit in terms of like, I don't think that's what it is doing.
Yeah, definitely not, but it's called focus. So anyway,
Anyway.
what was I saying?
I don't know. I gotta fidget in my chair a whole bunch. You were saying you gotta find people who understand that. Do you want me to? I got something. If you want to take a minute to think about that.
Yeah.
No, you got it. Yeah. When you're not on your
when
your
I'm not on Adderall.
We got there.
When I'm not on
I
my
was like,
Adderall.
man, we can't focus, and because like I'm drinking coffee and Emily's not on it. Oh, that was the conversation.
So when I'm not on Adderall, I definitely struggle with it more, but my Adderall kind of fixes it to an extent.
Yeah?
Like,
Hey.
I definitely do it a lot less, unless it's somebody I'm very comfortable with, like you or like Victor. Because I'm still very excited about our conversations. Like, I have a lot of passion about what we're talking about, just in general.
Yeah.
And, but when I'm on it, I notice, like, at work, conversations are easier for me. Like, it's a lot easier for me to be like, oh,
That makes sense.
yeah, I agree with you after you're done speaking, right? I'm like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
good, but have you thought about this? Or like, it's more of a calm approach to the conversation. I think what else I'd like to raise kind of about this, just with ADHD, is if you don't have ADHD, it's hard to understand what it's like inside somebody's brain who does have ADHD. And the best way that I could, explain this is if you had like a literal bouncy ball in a small environment and it just keeps bouncing off of everything and it just is constantly moving from one place to another, and I actually can visualize that happening in my brain when all my thoughts are like all over the place, and that is a 24/7 feeling.
If I had a nickel for every time someone looked at me with like a little bit of like understanding, a little bit of concern, and just went, "You think a lot."
Yeah,
I could buy Twitter from Elon Musk.
literally. We could just buy Elon Musk together with all of our nickels.
That's the dream. Let's just own Elon Musk. Make him. God, what would you do if you could own Elon Musk? What would you make him do?
Make better cars.
Make better cars. Sure. I mean, I don't mean Elon Musk's like property or company. I mean like Elon Musk. Like, what would you like?
No, I mean, I'd be like, you need to figure out a way to fix your shitty problems in your car and stop selling them. Like, it really
Sure.
bothers me that he sells these cars that are supposed to be like, oh, they're affordable, but they're like, blah, 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 like high tech and all great. And then like water just comes in through the floor.
Yeah. No, it's. I more so meant like me personally. I would also buy Ben Shapiro and put them in a cage match together and just make them fight.
Oh, so if I owned Elon Musk,
because I don't trust him to do his own to fix his company.
I would lock him in a room with Kanye West.
Have you heard about the beef recently?
Yes.
Oh my god,
That's
it's
why.
amazing.
And I would lock them in a room, and then I'd just watch it. Just like watch them yell at
with
each other.
security cameras and just oh my god, unfiltered Kanye
Squid
in a
Games
room
3.
with Elon. Hell yes. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think Squid Games should be never mind, let's not get on that topic. I was going to get political.
Wait, but I'm really curious about what you're
I think we should do a season of Squid Games, but it's all politicians like
Yes.
like just celebrities that think they have more of a political influence than, or that do have more of a political influence than they should be allowed to have.
So Kanye West, Elon Musk, Candace Owens,
Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens. Is Tommy Loren still
Andrew
relevant?
Tate when he gets out of jail.
Andrew Tate. Oh my god. I love her and I support her 1,000%. I would throw Greta Thunberg in,
Oh, yeah.
or Thunberg.
I don't know. Every time I look at her, I think about Eliza Thornberry.
Nice. She's a gem and I love her. But I would put her and Andrew Tate
In the same room.
in the same room just to watch her fucking obliterate.
Oh, yeah.
him. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's been the hottest beef of the fucking year.
Yeah.
Anyways, ADHD. What were you talking?
Yeah. Man, this is gonna have to be an episode you edit.
That's yeah. I feel like that's the trend we're just hitting. It's just like
It's fine.
it's fine.
I'll
I'm
do
gonna
some
edit.
good ones.
I'm gonna have a 24-hour travel
Yes.
tomorrow when I go to Thailand.
So you can
I'm
edit.
so excited. Yeah, one of them's a 15-hour flight, so I'm planning to edit a lot.
And you can make bonus content, and you can
can
pull
make bonus
social media
content, I can
clips,
pull social
and the
media
aspect
clips.
ratios are in OneNote
Yeah.
for you.
Let's
so
keep
you'll
in mind
know.
I am on vacation.
Not on the plane. You're not.
Not on the plane. I'm not.
You're not on the plane. You're working for me on the plane.
Yeah. You got it, boss.
I'm only half kidding.
I don't think you're kidding at all, but I appreciate
I'm half
you.
kidding.
You're half kidding in the sense where it is up to me.
Yes.
If I really don't want to, but if I'm at all feeling neutral about it, it's not up to me.
No, I'd say it's still up to you, but I'm
Okay.
pressuring you.
It's
to
up
do
to me
it.
as long as I make the right decision.
That's correct.
As long as you do what I want you to do, it's your decision.
Wait, but I don't actually feel that way, John.
I know you don't. I know, but I have to give you shit.
I feel more so like if you're on the edge of not editing, that you think about me, and then you're like, I should do this because Emily would be really happy.
Oh, I see. So it's like a pressure of our friendship, not
Correct.
of the business.
Correct.
I see.
This is absolutely correct, because that's
So it's
more
not
like
that it's not that as your coworker you need me to do this work for you. It's that as your friend
And
you're
coworker.
testing my loyalty, and coworker. Mm-hmm. You're testing.
Yep.
And just
That's what it
gonna
is.
drag
So,
you.
Listen, let me tell you, John, I have so many hours in the day that I don't have, but I have them. And you know what I mean by saying that. And
I
so,
do. I can't act surprised. I know what you mean.
And that being said, I still managed to edit out all of my episodes.
Yeah, you really fucking yeah.
And so you can find within your flight of bajillion hours, time to edit an episode. Okay,
I
John.
know. I'm the one that said I was going to. Don't
You
turn this
opened
against.
this can
Don't
of
turn this
worms.
against me. I was
Whatever.
using this as a means to drag you.
I know, and then I
shit.
flipped it on
Fuck.
you.
God damn it. You got me again. Back to
Anyway, so
dominating
now that we
conversations.
dominated that entire conversation,
I did have something I wanted to talk about though. So something I've been thinking about this a lot recently too. This is something I get very self-conscious about, especially this time of year, where like, I mean, like my birthday's coming up, but it's also like winter and sadness, and I get very in my head about like my own behaviors and stuff. And something that I know is the case a lot is everyone that I've ever been friends with, I want to say honestly, except you, because that might be the case, definitely has learned that they just have to like let me talk, and they kind of stop paying attention. And I've become very self-conscious of this behavior recently, because there was a part of me when I started noticing it where I was like, why isn't anyone listening to me? Like, why is no one? And now that I've noticed that it's a trend amongst everyone I meet, all of my friends, all of my coworkers, that people just kind of let me talk, I'm like, okay, I think I'm doing a lot of useless rambling. And there's a lot to say about that. There's a lot I can say about, like, it's not that it's useless rambling and I'm valid for having my thoughts and my opinions, and yeah, definitely. But it also, I think, very much relates to not me wanting to dominate the conversation, but accidentally dominating the conversation pretty consistently. Despite how much work I've tried to do with like listening, I don't know. I think I just ramble and people kind of tend to stop listening. And so I've really tried to work on that behavior a lot recently. And something that has helped me a lot has been journaling. Which I don't know why I've always been so against journaling. I think it's that part of all of us that's like, well, but I don't need to do that. Or like, well, when you're trying to start any kind of healthy practice, it's feeling like, like I don't want, because I do feel lame for journaling sometimes. I'm in the sense where like, I don't want my coworkers to see that I'm journaling, because there's such a stigma around like,
Mental
oh,
health.
are you writing in your journal? Yeah, there's a stigma around mental health and like truthfully, a lot of the people that I work with in the industry are not, they're like millennials, like they're older and they're very, very tough and thick-skinned and are good at not talking about their feelings. And so in comes this soft little smiley, happy, positive boy that's like, let's all talk about our feelings and be friends. And they're like, I don't think so, man.
They're like, you're like half a zillennial. You're a zillennial. That's what
I'm a
they call it.
zillennial. I mean, yeah, actually, yeah. And it feels super lame to like have like a journal out or I don't know. It's hard to not feel like, is there anything to be self-conscious of? No. Is there anything to be self-conscious of when talking about mental health in general? No. Are some of us still in situations where we don't want the people around us to necessarily see us being vulnerable? Yeah. Like, it's one thing to know that it's okay and that it's good and that it's healthy. It's another thing to feel comfortable with projecting that around. Like, no matter how comfortable you are with it, we're always going to be around other people that aren't into it. And I'm not secure enough with myself to feel okay opening myself up to being made fun of and criticism. And so I've never really felt like good about having like a physical journal or something like that. What has helped me a lot, and also I find it's just an easier way for me to vent, is just doing it on the Notes app. I have a Notes app that I just have titled Journal Stuff, which I still keep private, but I can just like type on my laptop or like type on my phone, because I'm sure a lot of people relate to this, but I have always felt good about venting over text. I also like when I'm writing scripts and stuff, I love writing dialogue, and so I do feel like I'm good at expressing myself in my voice and my tone through words that I write and words that I type. And so I started journaling where I would write out conversations as if I was texting them to the people I was talking to. And
that's interesting.
It was and I still do that a lot, where it's like, I'll have I need to talk this out with someone, but it's not the time. And it's also like, I know I'm way more in my thoughts and I want to like have the conversation and then hear it so that I can actually have the conversation well. And so I'll write out like a text, like I'm drafting a text. It's like when people are like, oh yeah, draft an email to your boss, venting about your job. It's the same thing, but it's actually so healthy and so helpful to be like, listen up, fuckface. Like, it's really, it does something for you to say like, hey, I don't like the way you've been talking to me. I don't like the way this happens. And then you can see that and look at it and read it. And it's so much easier to be like, okay, I got that out. I'm feeling a little more calm. Now I can look at this from a little bit more of an outside perspective and be like, that wasn't a super fair thing for me to say. Like, that was an emotional thing that I needed to get out. Mm-hmm. But there's all this other context that makes it not fair for me to actually criticize that person for. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, I don't know. It's a really, really good medium to be extremely selfish and emotional and dominate the conversation and just say the wrong thing without actually having it affect someone else. And I have found that the more that I do that, the less buildup I have in here of like, I have to get this out because I feel like I've already said it. And I feel like, and I've navigated like, no, I don't actually want to say that. Like, that's not fair. That's not nice. Even that's, despite trying to be super mentally healthy, like I say things in my head all the time to people that are not fair and are completely selfish. And I don't think it's about like being the kind of person that doesn't ever have negative thoughts. It's about finding, okay, I have these negative thoughts and I have to get them out. Where's the healthiest way to get them out that doesn't affect other people? And it makes conversations a lot more even keeled. I feel.
And there's a couple of things. I was being very good. I listened to that whole thing.
Whole time.
I listened
to my
so
rant.
like intently too.
That was such a good fucking job.
And I've somehow held. Maybe there is some focus in this.
Yeah, please now you talk.
But there's a couple of things that I wanted to comment on. The first one was that I like it when you tell me all the things, because then it gives me ideas and you inspire me, and I enjoy listening to all your thoughts. So I hope you know that that's true.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is I know that with you. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever had to draft a text or anything to you, because we just have that relationship.
But I also wanted to say that I relate to that very much. So it's like I get very excited about something, and then I get very hurt when I start to notice that people aren't listening, or like I've lost someone and then I try to there's like this moment of like, oh, never mind, it doesn't matter, right? And then I'm like upset about it forever.
Because then you're gaslighting yourself, and you're like,
Yeah.
I guess my thoughts don't matter.
Yeah, and that's what I've spent a lot of time this past year learning, is like, no, I have valid thoughts and feelings about everything that's kind of going on in my life, and I just need to be better at like acknowledging those feelings when certain things like that come up. And one of the things that I find helpful, because I don't like typing things out, I get very overwhelmed when like I'm trying, like if I were to tell you something that was like really long, and I've done this to you a couple of times, I'll be like, can I just call you, or can I tell you when we're on FaceTime? Because for me, typing it all out is like, it's overwhelming, because there's just, I'm like, I can't, there's so many components to this,
Yeah, that makes sense. I also, that's my like passion, is like writing. And
Right.
so it makes sense for me, but
yeah, and everybody's
maybe
different.
voice
And
memos or something for you.
well, you know
something like
what?
that.
What's been really nice is for anything that doesn't have to do with Victor, because obviously Victor and I have our own little spats and things, but
You a
They're-
married couple?
they're really
Have
not that terrible.
spats?
But let me tell you, Victor probably thinks I'm mean sometimes, because I come home and I'll be like, he doesn't really, but I'm like, I just need to like talk about this in a way that I like unfiltered.
Yeah.
Like where I'm just like, I think that this was really fucking stupid, and this person is just so fucking rude. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, I really didn't mean that. I was just frustrated, you know. But
because if you hold it in, then it builds and it gets worse, and it leads to resentment against
It does.
someone that you just don't actually dislike that much.
And I think what I've been learning too, I've been having a lot of issues at work lately. So many issues at work.
I'm sorry.
All the issues are from work at the moment.
No.
And they're kind of like spilling over into like my home life, right? Like I get home and I'm still stressed about work, or I'm thinking about things that I still need to do. And there's just all this stress around work at the moment. And it happens, and it's okay. And I come home and I'll tell Victor about it. But one of the things I really need to work on is being able to kind of like let all of those thoughts out in a professional way to somebody who is in a position to help me, like a manager or something. Because in my one-on-one on Friday, I cried, and I never cry. Professionally, I'm a different. You wouldn't recognize me in like my role at work.
I can picture it, but no, I've never seen it.
And so I'm very professional, very laid back, but also very much so like, no, I need to get this done, at the same time as being like, oh no, that's okay, we can work on this later or whatever. And my boss we were talking about just kind of like what's been going on, because it's been crazy for everybody and it's not just me. And she was like, I just want to check in because I know everything's been really crazy, and like, I know it's affecting me. She's like, my husband's literally has it out for all the people I've been telling, and I'm like, girl, same. So she asked me, she was like, and I just want to know how you're doing, because, I feel like I don't check in with you, like you guys enough, because we're just all so stressed out. And I was like, I feel beyond disrespected, not by you, but by the person I was referring to. I feel beyond disrespected. I feel unappreciated. And I explained everything. And then I felt so much better. Because she was like, she validated it, right? She was like, yeah, no, like this has been awful. And I'm right there with you. I think everything's been going on has been wrong and whatever. But what was hard for me leading up to that is I had all these thoughts, and most of my thoughts were like, fuck this person. Like, I can't believe she was talking to me that way. Or like, she did this to me and this pissed me off, and she's talking down to me and doing this, right? And I'm sitting here like just with all of this anger. So it was almost helpful to hold it in for a little while, because then once I had the opportunity to express it, I had organized enough of how I wanted to communicate, and I was able to say like, here's what's going on. Here's why I'm frustrated. Here's what I need from this. Can you help me? How do you feel? Right? I had all these kind of like points. So I find another thing I do is when I'm very overwhelmed in certain conversations is I do hold it in, especially emotionally. If a conversation is emotionally charged and I'm not trying to be like, oh, let me tell you about this. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, let me add this onto it. What I'll do is I'll sit there and I'll be like, I need to process this. And that's what I say. I say that to Victor all the time. I just need like 10 minutes to process this and then we can talk about it. Because sometimes I need to take that step back and I can't do it like, I know some people can do that in the moment.
No, I'm not good at that in the moment.
But
And we're both very empathetic people, and something I've been finding recently is like I actually can't trust most of my emotions in the moment because that sounds like such a bad thing, but like this is something I don't know how to work past, but I am very concerned. Like if I'm having an argument with someone, I'm very concerned with their emotional state. I'm very concerned that they're okay. And I think that's good to an extent, but I also have realized recently I tend to invalidate my own emotions and be like, no, I'm fine. Yeah. No, I'm good, because I can tell the other person's getting upset. And I'm like, I can't have that.
No.
Which, there's something good about that. But I think what we've both been talking about and realizing is that there's a healthy way to process the conversation beforehand so that you don't dominate the conversation, so that you don't like, because another part of dominating the conversation, I find, in terms of like just talking more, like quantity wise, talking more than not, is I will do so much backtracking and be like, well, no, I didn't mean that. Let me explain what I meant by that.
Yes.
And it's like,
or repeating yourself.
Yeah.
Do you do that? Like, because you feel like they're not getting what you're saying?
And so it's a matter of, especially I think for people with ADHD, it's a matter of like what I have to say. Like I don't have to say less than what I want to say, but there's a concise and efficient way to say those things. Mm-hmm. And that for some people requires a little bit more of space and processing and like other methods of reflecting on what it is I want to get to and say, as opposed to, because I'm not good at it in the moment. I'm not good at jumping in and being like, all right, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, this is how I feel. Done. I'm like processing it in the moment, and so I need to talk it out. And I think it's helpful to do that on your own and talk it out with yourself first.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and I think like the repeating thing too is another thing I do that actually does end up like dominating a conversation, because specifically I can speak on examples with my mom, because my mom and I think very differently. And so sometimes when I'm like emotionally trying to express something to her and I feel like she's not grasping what I'm saying because I feel like I'm not effectively communicating, I'll just repeat what I'm saying over and over again. She's like, I heard you. And I'm like, but you heard me, but do you understand where I'm coming from? And that's where it's hard for me to like emotionally be like, no, I'm trying to say this, this, and this. And so rather I'm just like, I know I already said this, but this is how I feel. I know I already said this, but this is how I feel.
And it's then the anxiety of, am I communicating myself efficiently?
Because I don't want it to come off in a way that's not like actually how I'm feeling, or I don't want her to think something else. And another reason that's just important with my mom is because my mom, being my mom, wants to fix any of the problems that I have, right? Like I come into a conversation or I tell her about something that's going on. She's like, okay, well, how can we fix this? And I'm like, I don't want to fix this.
It's not I'm coming to you to talk.
I just want to tell you about this, and I want to try to break down how I'm feeling so that I can feel like a little bit better about it. So I think within dominating conversations, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned, just being medicated, because one of the, like, and this is a small side tangent about medication just because it relates. One of the things I've noticed with medication is when I'm not on medication, there's these skills that I've learned because of the way I was thinking when I was on the medication that I'm now aware of the way that my brain is working a little bit more.
Hell yeah.
And then I can think about it in a way that's like, okay, so how can I focus on this? So one of the things that I've noticed within like just the whole dominating conversation things when I'm medicated is I'm able to hold on to these thoughts like a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to be like, okay, when they're done, I want to bring this point up, or I want to do X, Y, and Z with this. And so what I've done unmedicated recently, actually, because 34 days without Adderall, I've said things like, I'll be like, I don't mean to interrupt you, because I I still sometimes have to interrupt so that the other person can keep me accountable for what I want to talk about. I'll be like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but remind me that I wanted to tell you something about this.
We do that a lot, where I'll be like, remind me that I have something that I need to tell you about cats.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, oh, what was that cat thing? And I'll be like, oh my God, let me show you this video. And then...
Or even like someone taught me like a long time ago, it was actually a dance teacher I had, is that when you want to say something and someone's talking, to like cross your fingers. Because then...
So that you remember you have a little something.
Right, so then all of a sudden they're done talking and you're like, why are my fingers crossed? Oh yeah, I wanted to do like X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I've like in conversations where it doesn't seem like I'm not listening, I'll like take out my phone and I'll just write down like one word that'll remind me.
Yes,
so I've come up with like little
thing.
Tricks to just kind of be like, okay, I want to talk about this, but I don't want to like talk over this person or whatever.
Yeah.
And in meetings at work, same thing, I just write it down. I'll be like I have like a little column for questions and I'll be like, this, I want to ask about this, or I want to bring up this point or whatever. So that way the person who's talking isn't feeling like I'm not listening while I'm just sitting there trying to be like, okay, kid, can't forget.
Yeah,
you know?
Because you need to, oh my God, that's a whole nother thing we can get into, of just like having the little minders so that you can like forget about it and you can like fully get absorbed and not be worried about like using a little bit of your brain power to still remember like what's
right.
Man, yeah, that's a great
yeah
tip.
And I think the biggest takeaway from like just what I've learned about how I kind of dominate conversations and like how I've tried to manage that better is I think acknowledging it and communicating it with the people that it's going to affect the most, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, again, like I've said this earlier, but I have friends who I've communicated this to when we first were like getting to know each other, to be like, again, if I interrupt you, it's nothing against you. I just really have a hard time holding this in sometimes because I'm excited about the conversation or whatever. So if you're in a safe place to explain that to someone, there's no harm in being like, this is something I'm working on, right? Like I'm trying not to do this so much, and it's just something that I want to get better at. And so if I do this, again, it's nothing towards you, or I've even told friends to be like, if I get off like track or I'm having a hard time with this, like, can you reel me back in? And then they will, because they care about you. Or if you're in a situation where it's like professional, if you can write it down, or if you can put it in your notes, or just do something to kind of keep it in the back of your mind and just like, all right, keep it back there. Like, let's like, we gotta constantly think about it, but whatever. That's been helpful for me as well. So finding, like you said, I think it's really good to find little things that might help you kind of stay on track when in a long conversation, or even like in meetings that I'm sitting there and they're like presenting this long thing and I'm like, oh, I have a question about that. And then we're like 7 slides later and I'm like, no, I don't remember. And then like 3 days later, I'm trying to do something. I was like, oh, I was going to ask about that, which is why now I literally write everything down. I just have to write it down. And sometimes even just the action of writing it down, then I don't even have to look at the paper because I've remembered it, because I've put it out. It's such a weird,
no, it makes total sense. That makes total sense.
But,
I love that. Great tip.
I think that, again, I think communication is key.
It's always what it comes back to. Always, all the time, everything, all the stuff. Communicate. Communication.
I think the people who really care about you and like are true friends of yours will understand if you're able to communicate. Hey, I don't mean to interrupt you all this often or whatever. Just explain yourself. I think that that's really valuable, to have people in your life who are capable of being like, yeah, that's fine. Like, we'll work through it. It's no big deal. Or you could just be in a relationship like John and I are, where we just continue to do it. And then 4 hours later, we talked about why the Earth exists and does aliens is real. And then somehow we have a podcast.
I was going to say, I don't think we need to fix it because now we have a podcast. So
this is true.
It's working. Mm-hmm. It's working for us. And with all of that said, Emily, what did we learn today?
We learned to pet some dogs.
Oh my God. You know who you never have to worry about dominating the conversation with? Is dogs. You can just talk to dogs all day long and they'll be thrilled because most dogs don't speak English at all. So it's pretty easy to just dominate the conversation. But that's just love. They love that.
But they understand English.
Right.
They also understand other languages too. So you could.
That's what I'm saying. Because they can hear you. You just talk to them and they're like, this is so much love. And then you pet those dogs.
Yeah, and if you have a cat, you can try to talk to it. It probably won't listen.
Yeah. The cat can hear
I-
you just by what it wants you to think, but
Yeah,
it may not
it can hear
listen.
you, but it won't
Yeah.
listen.
Nah.
And it might look at you like you're crazy, but sometimes, that works for me. Sometimes I come home
grounding.
and I tell my cats
that.
about all the things, and
they're
they're just like,
okay, you're dominating the conversation a little bit right now,
yeah.
which is healthy. We love cats.
Yeah, we love cats. Okay, this is a side note.
Side note.
This is a side note, but
Oh.
have you seen the TikTok sound that's like, they're like, I'm a cat person and I also am a dog person because I'm reasonable, but dog people are the only people out here who are being selective, and that's just weird. And
That's a great point. That's a very good point.
because I think that I'm a
Damn.
cat person and a dog person. But anyway, that's my side note for the day. And then
Yeah.
the second
I've
thing,
recently become both.
yeah,
I love me a cat.
exactly.
Love cat.
They're great. So the second thing that we've learned
Yeah, what else did we learn?
is that if you dominate the conversation, it's okay, but maybe like recognize it and,
Yeah.
Communicate if you need to, so that somebody doesn't think that you're just like disregarding what they're saying, or
Yeah.
that you're being rude or inconsiderate, and just be like, hey, I have a hard time with this, and I hope you know that it's not meant to be mean or rude or whatever. Or like find ways to remember things a little bit. Like write things down, put it in your notes app. Or if you
Write
have so
things
many
down.
thoughts all the time, like John and I, you can annoy your spouse, or instead of annoying your spouse, you can write it down. Or you can type it out.
Type it out. Yeah, and that's the other thing that we learned is sometimes if you're dominating conversations, maybe it's because you're not ready. You're still processing. So it's okay to step back and process solo. Process
Yes.
it by yourself in whatever means, draft an email, draft a text, write things out, talk it out to yourself in a recording, a voice memo. What do they call it?
Yeah, they're called voice memos.
Voice memos. Yeah. It's just you're not doing anything wrong. You just gotta figure
Can
it out.
you imagine, like, if you do use a voice memo and then you go back into it and it's like you, like, cussing someone out and then you accidentally, like, you go back to listen to it
You
to delete
fucking piece of shit.
it. I can't believe you didn't pet all the dogs today.
There were 16 dogs on the street. You barely even looked at 6 of them. Yeah, that's
And then
those
you
are the
have
kind of
other
arguments
ones.
I want to have with my future spouse.
Yeah.
Is like, there were a lot of dogs on the street today, and sweetheart, you barely even noticed them. There was a dog wearing a raincoat, and you didn't even point it out to me, and I almost missed it.
If your spouse
Are
isn't
we
like
okay?
Victor and I, where we're just in the car and every time one of us sees a dog, we're like, dog. Then
Yeah.
they're not the one.
Man, it's not the person.
But yeah, and then
think that's
there
the
also
summary.
might be a voice memo on there of us being like, you know what, we love you,
We love you.
we love you
Whoa.
so much,
We love you so much. Didn't have to step back to process that one. We
Nope.
knew that.
we love you,
Love you.
so many,
Love you so many. Oh my god.
all the many's all the time.
Yeah.
We just really, 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 really love you.
It's fucking ridiculous.
So with that, I guess our dominating the conversation episode has come to an end,
Uh-huh.
and we will see you next time on
On Mendelsync.
That's the One.
Wow.
Bye, guys.
Bye, yeah, see you later. Bye.
Cool. Okay, are we happy?